Vasudevaya.
Thank you, Buddha. I appreciate that, Vani.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
He's sitting
Okay,
next
I'm
to
going
me.
to mute everybody. Just and Rupa Mataji, sorry I do, but because of the background noise, you can unmute yourself again and start with the prayers once again. So,
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 3, verse 1. Arjuna Uvacha Jayasi Cheta Karmanaste Mata Buddhirjanardana Tatkim Karmani Ghore Mam Niyojayasi Keshava.
Arjuna said, O Janardhan, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work?
Verse 2. Vyamishreneva Vakyena Buddhim Mohayashiva me Tad ekam vada nishchitya Yena shreyo aham apnoyam.
My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Lokesmin dvividha nishtha Pura prokta maya nagha Jnana yogena sankhyanam Karma yogena yoginam.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service.
Sorry, Prabhuji, thank you. Na, text 4. Na karmanam anarbhavan naishkarmyam purushosnute na cha sannyasana deva siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection.
Verse 5. Nahi kaschit shanam api jatu tishtati akarma kret karyate hi avasha karma sarva prakriti jergune.
Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment.
Verse 6. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachara sa uchyate.
One who restrains the senses of action but whose mind dwells on sense objects certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender.
Verse 7. Yastva indriyani manasa niyam arbhata arjuna karmendriyai karma yogam asakta sa vishishyate.
On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness, without attachment, he is by far superior.
Verse 8. Nityatam kuru karma tvam karma jayo hi akarmana sharirayatrapi chate na prasiddheta karmana.
Perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work.
Verse 9. Yagyarthat karmano anyatra लोकयं कर्म बन्धना तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसङ्गा समाचर.
Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage.
Verse 10. Sahayagya praja shrestva purovacha prajapati anena prasavisyadvam eshavostra ishtakamadhuk.
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yagna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation."
Verse 11. Devan bhavya tenena te deva bhavyantu va parasparam bhavyayantaha shreya param avaspata.
The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all.
Verse 12. Ishtan bhogan hi vo deva dasyante yagya bhavita terdattana pradaya bho yo bhunkte stena eva saha.
In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yagna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief.
Verse 13. Yagya shishta shrina santo muchyante sarva kilbishe bhunjate te tva agam papa ye pachanti atmakaranat.
The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for the sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin.
Verse 15. Sorry, verse 14. No, we did that. Verse 15. Sorry, is it
It's verse 14, Mataji, verse
sorry.
14.
Verse 14. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhava yagyad bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava.
All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagna, sacrifice, and yagna is born of prescribed duties.
Verse 15. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmaskara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yagye pratishtitam.
Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice.
Verse 16. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati tayaha agyayur indriyaramo mogham partha sajivati.
My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, thus established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain.
Verse 17. Yastva atmaratir eva syad atmatriptascha manava atmani eva cha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate.
But one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty.
Verse 18. Naiva tasya kritenartho na kriteneha kasyana nachasya sarvabhuteshu kaschid artha vyapashraya.
A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being.
Verse 19. Tasmad asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purusha.
Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme.
Verse 20. Karmaneva hi samsiddhim asthita janakadaya loka sangraham evapi sampashyan kartum arhasi.
Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work.
Verse 21. Yad yad acharati shreshthas tad tad evataro jana tayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate.
Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues.
Verse 22. Na me parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam varta eva cha karmani.
O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Rupa Mataji and Bhavna Mataji, for that wonderful recitation. That was really nicely done. Thank you. So, dear devotees, we are doing the text 22 today. Sorry, I do apologize. Text 21. So let's go straight into the text. Yad yad acharati shreshthas tat tat eva taro jana sayat pramanam kurute lokas tat anuvartate. Yat yat, whatever, acharati, he does, shrestha, a respectable leader, tat, that, and tat, and that alone. Eva, certainly, itaraha, common, janaha, person, saha, he, yat, whichever, pramanam, example, kurute, does, perform, loka, kurute, does perform, loka, all the world, tat, that, anuvartate, follows in the footsteps. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Purport. People in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One who teaches in that way is called Acharya, or the ideal teacher. Therefore, a teacher must follow the principles of Shastra scripture to teach the common man. The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scriptures. The revealed scriptures like Manu Samhita and similar others are considered the standard books to be followed by the human society. Thus, the leader's teaching should be based on the principles of such standard books to be followed by human society. Thus, the leader's teaching should be based on the principles of such standard shastras. One who desires to improve himself follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. The king or the executive head of a state, the father and the school teacher are all considered to be the natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with the standard books of moral and spiritual codes. What a beautiful purport. Just give me, I need to quickly take a 1 minute break, need to attend something. So perhaps, could we have a volunteer who could read this purport once again? It's such a nice purport.
I can read it, Prabhuji.
Yes, go ahead, Jyoti Mataji. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. People in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One who teaches in that way is called Acharya, or the ideal teacher. Therefore, a teacher must follow the principles of Shastras, scriptures, to teach the common man. The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scriptures. The revealed scriptures like Manu Samhita and similar others, are considered the standard books to be followed by human society. Thus, the leader's teachings should be based on the principles of such standard shastras. One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. The king or the executive head of a state, the father, and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual codes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhube Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. What a beautiful verse, but probably not the best speaker to speak about it. However, taking very clearly the purport of Srila Prabhupada, I can shed some light on it because it definitely doesn't at all refer to somebody like myself, but here Prabhupada is referring to someone who is an Acharya. So here you see what is the theme of this particular verse is that a leader should perform prescribed duties to set an example for others. Can somebody tell me what was the name of the leader referred in the previous verse?
Janak Maharaj.
Janak Maharaj.
Okay, and why was he referred, Rasalila Mataji, as to why was Janak's name given? How did he set up a great example? Or Rupa Mataji?
Janak Maharaj was completely self-realized. He had no duties to perform, but he performed his duties very meticulously. He was the king. He looked after his praja, and he was completely self-realized, but still he was going on with his prescribed duties to set an example for all the people.
Correct. So you see, in the modern context of the world where we live in today, there is a lot which goes on in the corporate world about leadership. And there are many books, many famous authors like Stephen Covey, there are many who have written volumes and volumes of books on leadership. And some of them are truly inspirational because they are able to write because they've led their life on those principles, or they are still trying to live. But a lot of these authors, or a lot of the people who also talk about leadership, it's very difficult to know whether how many of those are really be able to follow what's been given in the book by them, or are true to their words. Even if they are, it would still mean some materially driven aspirations or motivation. But here, what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, that a leader should perform prescribed duties to set an example. There are two contexts to it. One context is that as we are doing our duty, so as per our psychophysical nature and the Varna Ashram Dharma, if we are in a Grihastha ashram, we have certain prescribed duties. So that's the first aspect, that if we do not follow or perform our prescribed duties, then we'll certainly be doomed. And Krishna is recommending that we do follow these duties properly and sincerely. The other aspect of looking at is the spiritual dimension, that when one takes seriously the shelter of a spiritual master or spiritual masters, then one is also obliged, or rather privileged, to follow the prescribed duties given by the spiritual masters. And the instructions of the spiritual masters should at all times should take the priority compared to any other instructions or any other thing which is coming from anywhere in the world, as long as the spiritual master is situated in the parampara system. And of course, the spiritual masters, knowing which the world we live in, they will not tell us anything which will deviate us or derail us or take us away from our prescribed duties, both in the Grihastha ashram and at the same time trying to cultivate spiritual knowledge. So that is why it's very important for a leader to perform, prescribed duties. So these are some key points from the purport of Srila Prabhupada. First, Prabhupada mentions the definition of Acharya is that he's an ideal teacher who teaches by perfect personal behavior. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it is mentioned, the glorification is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorifies Haridas Thakur. He tells Haridas Thakur that, my dear Haridas, there are some people who preach very nicely, but they do not follow the process, or they do not lead by example. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says there are others who follow very nicely, but they cannot preach. But he considered Haridas Thakur to be a perfect Acharya. He said, you are teaching by example, and you're also you're an example as far as the following the process is concerned. So that is why Srila Haridas Thakur was considered a perfect Acharya as per Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if you remember, in this Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is a beautiful pastime where Haridas Thakur was invited by, Advaita Acharya. And Advaita Acharya performed a function at his place. And he wanted to invite many Brahmanas, and he invited Haridas Thakur in there. And then it was suggested that he first starts serving, a topmost Brahmana, that's the etiquette. So obviously Haridas Thakur, although seemingly coming from Muslim background, but he served Haridas Thakur first. So that goes to shows that one may not necessarily be born as an ideal teacher, but by following the process of devotional service, coming in the line of disciplic succession, one can raise oneself to such a platform where one, by qualities, one has become, one has reached such a position to be able to have such respect like what was given to Srila Haridas Thakur. So that is one example. And this is why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on teaching, he says that one should behave properly before he begins teaching. Example, a leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Now, there are two aspects one can take as the practicing devotee of Krishna consciousness. This is why it's very important to clearly understand Prabhupada's purport. So Prabhupada refers to the word Acharya when he ends that line that one should behave properly, before he begins teaching. So one may think like, okay, Divyanam is giving or talking here, but he himself may not be behaving in many aspects, which is the case here, because I've not reached such a level. So, and nor am I Acharya. So, however, again, taking the same orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Amar Agya Hoye, by my instruction, you become Guru. And then you preach Krishna consciousness. So if we take that instruction and pray and depend on the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and share what we can to our best capacity, because the process is pure, it will benefit both the speaker as well as the receiver. If I was speaking here on something completely different, not related to Krishna consciousness, then unfortunately, I won't be benefiting spiritually, nor will you be benefiting spiritually. But because we are discussing Krishna Katha or Bhagavad Gita, there is certainly a sense of purification which is taking place for myself and for everybody else who's discussing or churning this message or this purport of Srila Prabhupada. So a leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking. So does anybody also remembers this example Prabhupada gives in a lecture about Mahatma Gandhi, that how a mother of a child approached him? Who remembers that example? Let's see.
It is something to do with the sweet, Prabhuji.
Sorry, Venkat Prabhu, something to do with?
Sweet.
Yes, please.
I don't know what you
it
call
is.
that in Hindi or English.
You
So
go
I
ahead.
think
Yes,
it's
tell us, Prabhu.
Yeah, I think the mother reaches to Mahatma Gandhi saying that my son is eating, say, some sugar, and she requests Gandhiji to say to her son that don't eat sugar. But he asked that mother to bring the tail after 3 weeks.
Correct.
And then, so after bringing after 3 weeks.
3 days,
then,
yes, that's
3
right.
days, okay, yeah. So after 3 days, Gandhiji says to child, don't eat sugar, it's not good for your health, all those things. And then mother gets like doubt. If this simple thing, why couldn't he say the 3 days back? Then Gandhiji says, because that time even I was eating. So I don't want to say when I'm eating. So I stopped it now, and that's why I said now. Is that correct, Prabhuji?
That is absolutely correct, Venkat Prabhu. Thanks for bringing that here.
You,
so yes, so that is the way Srila Prabhupada also quotes. But as I said, one has to be very careful. One cannot take things for as it is because, okay, I haven't become perfect, then I shouldn't tell others about Krishna. The beauty is our Father is supremely pure. And anybody who's coming, our Supreme Father, and anybody who's coming in the line of that Supreme Father, especially very close to the line of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, then one can be rest assured that there'll certainly be some empowerment once you have connected to the process of Guru Parampara. But if one's mood is to take the advantage of that power and do what he likes or she likes, then unfortunately it will not benefit anybody. But if one is trying his best, even though there may be some struggles, but he has faith that, okay, my spiritual master has asked me to do some service, and by doing it sincerely, one day I may be able to rise to a level where I can also become pure. So if it is done with that mood, then it's all right. Because one time Her Grace Malati Prabhu was giving a lecture in Bhaktivedanta manner, and I still remember this example she shared in relation to preaching Krishna consciousness, because and I think the context was, well, I haven't become pure yet, how can I preach to others? So Malti Mataji shared this story that when Prabhupada came to San Francisco for the first time, Prabhupada did quite a good, like a decent amount of time kirtan and a very short class, maybe 15-20 minutes. And when the class finished, Prabhupada said, now please go out and preach this cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the streets. So Malti Mataji put her hand up and said, Prabhupada, this is my first class I've ever attended. I do not know anything. What can I tell others? So Srila Prabhupada said, did you not participate in the kirtan? She said, yes, I did. What did we chant? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So he said, you simply go out and chant the holy names. So she understood from the mood of Prabhupada that whatever has been imparted to us, today, I think, how many of you had a good opportunity to hear the lecture of Karthik Chand Prabhu this morning?
I did, sir.
Who else? Thank you, Bhagavati Mataji.
Yeah, it was a nice lecture, Prabhu.
I did.
Okay, quite a few of you.
Listen
Wonderful.
the video, Prabhuji, here.
Okay. I think, yeah, the video was the offering, which was the cream of the session, but Karthik Chand Prabhu's class was phenomenal today. Prabhu was speaking so nicely, although he said seemingly he did not prepare, but the way he spoke so eloquently and so wonderfully, he spoke so nicely that even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was trying to find the faults in the devotees, and one may look at it from a negative perspective, but the deeper meaning or the antar bhav or the inside bhav of Mahaprabhu was that he was trying to find the faults even in the qualities of those devotees, so that when Mahaprabhu goes away, that they do not feel separation, from they because Mahaprabhu was really worried that these devotees, they would want to like come with him, and it'll be very difficult for him to stop them. So by saying like that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu behaved very, very nicely. So similarly, we have to, a leader cannot teach public to stop, Prabhupada is giving a nice example. There are certain things, very important aspects that, okay, if I'm eating meat and I'm trying to tell others don't eat meat, then that will not have an effect. So those fundamentals have to be there, but once you are following the process, it's fine. Tell others about Krishna, whatever you know, in whatever way you can. Share Krishna Prasadam, be nice to people. Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj often speaks about even the achar of a devotee or the etiquette, how he comes across, is also a wonderful way of preaching others, actually. And then what to speak of the direct preaching in the form of Srila Prabhupada books and other things, So what are the standard books and scriptures for humanity? The revealed scriptures like Manu Samhita and similar other scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and all of these are the standard scriptures. And what is the basis of leaders' teachings? These should be based on the principles of such standard shastras. So if we are speaking and discussing a purport of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, absolutely authentic, absolutely bona fide way of coming together and sharing Krishna consciousness with others. But if I same time take out another Bhagavad Gita or write my own Bhagavad Gita and try to bring it up to you and say, let's have a discussion. This is my understanding. These are my purports. You will say, oh my God, another one, 301st or 302nd translation. But we are discussing Srila Prabhupada's purport here, which is very, very nice. So the example of the natural leader and their responsibility is that the king or an executive head and the father and the school teacher, these are the responsible people in the society. So they have great responsibility to their dependents to help them progress on the spiritual path. So that is why it is also recommended, Prabhupada concludes on this point, that Srimad Bhagavatam recommendation for progress follow in the footsteps of great devotees. And the verse is also quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita 17.186. Arko pratishtata shuryato vibhinna nasha vrishir yasya matam na bhinnam dharmasya tattvam nihitam guayam mahajano yena gatha se pantha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued saying, dry arguments are inconclusive. A great personality whose opinion does not differ from others is not considered a great sage. Simply by studying the Vedas, which are variegated, one cannot come to the right path by which religious principles are understood. The solid truth of religious principles is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. Consequently, as the Shastras confirm, one should accept whatever progressive path the Mahajans advocate. So, you see, I heard this for the first time from my spiritual master, this beautiful quote I want to share with all of you. So, it's not what you know, but who you know. So, what it means is, of course, we can learn scriptures as Mahaprabhu is saying here, but that may not necessarily, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says this very beautifully. You may be chanting for years, you may be reading for thousands of years, you may be performing many austerities and sacrifices. But until and unless your heart is softened, or until and unless, you are, like here Prabhupada is saying, that the truth of religious principles is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. Through in his association, you can develop some humility, Maharaj says. And then obviously in that state, you are able to chant the holy name, or consequently, as the Shastras confirm, one should accept whatever progressive path the Mahajans advocate. So this is the path which has been shown to us by our acharyas. And I wanted to share one example before we conclude this evening session. And that example, Prabhupada gives in a lecture I think this was, I can't remember where exactly. I think it was Giriraj Maharaj was quoting Srila Prabhupada giving a lecture, that how Prabhupada was mentioning that Arjuna, when he was fighting in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he had flag of Hanuman, and Prabhupada gave two purports to that flag being on Arjuna's chariot. One is, it's the sign of a victory, as we all know. But the second is that, you see, the significance of Hanuman being another flag of Arjuna's chariot, and the mood of the Vaishnava is just as nowadays every nation has different types of flags, or Arjuna, as old, his flag was also on chariot. The flag was at the top of his chariot, and it was marked with Vajrangi, as Prabhupada quotes in the lecture. So who fought for who? Lord Ramachandra. So Arjuna is fighting for Krishna, so he's following in the footsteps. What a beautiful example, isn't it? That how Hanumanji was present in Arjuna's chariot. So that goes to show Arjuna is following in the footsteps of his previous acharya, who served Lord Ramachandra so nicely. And now Arjuna was doing the same thing by following Krishna. So this I will read directly now from Prabhupada's lecture. Lord Arjuna is fighting for Krishna, so he's following the footsteps of Vajrangi. Vaishnavism is like that. Mahajano yena gatha se pantha. The Vaishnav should follow his previous Mahajan authority. That is Vaishnavism. We don't manufacture ideas. We simply accept the behavior or the activities of previous acharyas. There is no difficulty in the fighting principle. Arjuna is fighting for Krishna, and he's following the previous fighting acharyas, Hanumanji. Therefore, he has depicted his flag with Hanuman, that Hanumanji or Vajrangi, kindly help me. This is Vaishnav. They should always pray to the previous acharyas, kindly help me. Vaishnav is always thinking himself helpless and begging help for the previous acharya. Just like Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, you will find the author. This is very beautiful. So please pay attention. This is so, so nice. Just like you will find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the author at the end of every chapter is saying, Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Yara Asa Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahe Krishna Das. Every line he's thinking of Rupa Raghunath, previous acharyas. Let me surrender to the Goswamis and they will help me how to write. You cannot write. That is not possible. So this is Vaishnav policy. Vaishnav Thakur, now Prabhupada is quoting Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Vaishnav Thakur, tomara kukur baliye ana more. Bhakti Vinod Thakur has sung, my dear Vaishnav Thakur, just accept me as your dog, as the dog works by the indication of the master. He will give his life. Dog has a good qualification. However strong a dog may be, when the master orders, he will give his life. This is dog, faithful, so faithful to the master. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur is praying, Vaishnav Thakur, tomara kukur, baliye jana more. My dear Vaishnav Thakur, oh Vaishnav Thakur means Guru. Kindly accept me as your dog. And he describes, I forget the exact language, that I will always try to protect you. As a dog keeps watch, so I will watch, so nobody will come to disturb you. And whatever little prasad you will give me, I will be satisfied. That's a dog qualification. The master is eating, but the dog will never come unless the master gives a little morsel. He is satisfied. He's satisfied. So this is Vaishnavism, to follow the previous acharyas. This is Vaishnavism. This was a talk given by Srila Prabhupada on Bhagavad Gita 1.2 in July 17, 1973 in London. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So this is such a beautiful point Prabhupada is making about, following the previous acharyas. You see, I mean, if you analyze, what do you think is the difference between a dog who's on the street versus the one who has a strap in his neck? And so what is the difference between the two dogs? Can somebody tell me?
The one with the collar is owned by somebody. The other one is just a stray.
Correct. So the one with the strap has his identity in relation to his master. So he has a master. So similarly, for us as an aspiring Vaishnavas, this is our strap. These Kanthi malas. So if you do not have Tulsi mala, please wear them at least one strand. And once you get initiated, you get 3 strands. So this Kanthi mala is a representation that if somebody comes close to us, including the death personified, then at least at the outset, he will see, okay, this person has a master. So I better be very careful, like in the story of Ajamil. So that is the difference, because we are trying to follow the previous acharyas or previous masters. That way we are very, very fortunate to be able to come surrender at the lotus feet of the spiritual master, serve the Vaishnavas, and one day develop the humility like Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who's none other than Kamala Manjari in spiritual world, but yet telling that Amir Kukur, he's saying, I'm your dog, oh Vaishnav Thakur. He's telling his spiritual master, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, that I'm your servant. So this is the essence of spiritual life. If we think that I know everything, and that's the end of our Krishna consciousness. But if we think that I do not know anything, I'm the full number one, then there is some hope of us progressing in Krishna consciousness if we submit. But if we say we are simply full number one to anybody, that may not help. But if we sincerely mean it in front of our spiritual master, like how Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami surrendered. In the first meeting, they said, we do not know anything. All we know is we want to serve you. And that was their mood. And Mahaprabhu so much appreciated, to the point that they became the most intimate associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his pastimes. And through them, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered them so much so that they were able to write scriptures, excavate the spiritual places in Vrindavan. And today, by their mercy, we have access to those scriptures. And of course, one of those is Srimad Bhagavatam, which is of course coming from Vyasadeva, who all of us very nicely trying to read and as far as possible live, and at the same time distribute. I think distribution, one can see there's no doubt, because what just happened is no less than miracle. Somebody said to me once, as an aspiring devotees, we do not believe in miracles. We believe in Krishna who does miracles, you see. So this is the power of following our previous acharyas. We are just following the mood of our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. You know, he worked tirelessly to give Bhagavatam. This is, Prabhupada gave so much, but his biggest contribution is the purports to Srimad Bhagavatam that everybody knows in the whole world of ISKCON. There is no doubt about it. It is those purports of Prabhupada which makes the base of the Varnashram Dharma. It is those purports of the Srila Prabhupada which makes the foundation of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. So it is a matter of great joy that, you know, we together were able to achieve such a wonderful result for Srila Prabhupada. And he did made us dance. You know, we were dancing quite a lot. We were dancing in anxiety for a few days. How will it happen? How will it happen? But somehow or other, ideas were coming. Krishna was guiding us, and he was empowering us, all of us, that we could come in such a way that so many books can be distributed. As you know, 8 days before the Bhadra Purnima, we had only achieved 245 sets of Bhagavatam. We had 155 sets to distribute. And we were in anxiety, so many of us, that how is this going to happen? And then obviously I heard about the Gram Vidya Dan from my Guru Maharaj. A video landed up on my WhatsApp. And I thought, last year we couldn't get it going, and let's try. And then by the mercy of other devotees from the temple, like Rishikesh Prabhu, our treasury, and who gave us the permission to, yes, go ahead. And then that's it. And somehow when I, one second, sorry, I do apologize, one second. So we can see just from that point onwards, when the devotees helped us, then we were able to move forward. And when this permission was given to us, we could immediately see that, you know, this is going to ultimately, hopefully, take us through the line. And you know, and I remember the time when I went to the temple management. There were like 12-13 leaders in the room, and I said to them that I actually begged them. I said, if you can allow us this is our only hope now, because this can get us through the finishing line. And Rishikesh Prabhu asked me a few questions, and then, you know, with the relationship we had with our, this is the beauty of working in a worldwide movement. You see, one thing is to be able to work in a multinational company like Morgan Stanley, which I do for the namesake, but there isn't a huge benefit, you know, even though we are working with different continents, different calls with US, Europe, of course, you know, we're doing some dealings are going on, but this is the transcendental dealing, you know, dealing for the sake of transforming, you know, or shipping Bhagavatam from, you know, one place to another. So then that's it. Then so many devotees came together. All of you, each one of you contributed to this campaign. And if not anything else, I have to say this chat platform is one area which I strongly feel that all of you are helping us and helping Srila Prabhupada in moving this Sankirtan movement, taking it to the next level altogether. Devotees are completely awestruck, and they're like, wow, you know, this has never happened in the history of Bhaktivedanta Manor. Last year, we hit our best record we ever did in the world at Manor, was 333 sets of Bhagavatam against the goal of 300. This year, we pushed it to 400, which was a big ask. But look where we landed, 490 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. So yes, Haribol, anything is possible by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So I'll stop there and see if any devotees have any questions or any comments or any reflections. Or any experiences you want to share from the campaign, or anything you want to mention from today's course. Namrita Mataji is saying, Haribol Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, how amazing. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, how amazing. Even I'm amazed, Mataji. How did it happen? So,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
I was just saying that if people want to read the Srimad Bhagavatam and look at leadership, then Prithu Maharaj's instructions are just amazing. How he glorifies Vaishnavas and how his citizens should be serving Vaishnavas. He very clearly talks about parampara and how one should be following that. So yeah, it's Canto 4, Chapter 21.
That's a very good example. Yes, Prithu Maharaj is a great example. Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the 4th canto. Yeah, please read if you can, because there also Prabhupada emphasizes about a good leadership in many purports actually. So yeah, that is very, very nice. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
In the purport, Prabhupada has written father and school teacher, and what was it? The
Leader.
Yeah, the leader, they have great responsibility. Prabhupada also writes that the mother is the first teacher. So even a father, I mean, he meant father, mother as well, I think parents as well.
Yeah, I think somebody's also asked a similar question, Rupa Mataji. We have a devotee who's asked saying, let me read the question. Thank you for the informative session. This verse does not quote any role of mother as a natural leader. Families who don't have a father, I'm struggling to understand this. And also I remember a verse about pollution of women in chapter 2. I think, no, it's not at all. It's a beautiful question, Mataji. So I think it has 2 questions. So thank you, Rupa Mataji, also to bring that point. So yes, I will endorse what Rupa Mataji said. It also, well, it can definitely refer to a mother. A mother has a equally, if not more important role as a leader to play. You see, with the scriptures, we have to bring things in perspective. And Prabhupada in many places, I mean, it's directly mentioned in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Is it 11th canto or the 9th canto? I'm trying to remember. That one should not become a father, one should not become a mother, a teacher, a spiritual master, or there's one more thing. Unless and until one is able to liberate one's dependence from the cycle of birth and death. So that itself is another evidence, Mataji, to your question, that mother is very much in that category of a leader actually. But Prabhupada not mentioning in the one verse does not mean that it doesn't refer, because ultimately we are all Prakriti, as in we are part of the, we are, in one sense, we are to be enjoyed by the Lord, whether we are a man or a female. There is only one Purush, one supreme male, which is Krishna, and everybody else is meant to serve him actually. So yes, so to endorse your question, to answer your question, Mataji, yes, you can take it in a similar spirit that yes, it is also referring to mother. And in our, yes, there is a 2nd chapter from verse starting with 45, 46. Those verses also talks about that when there is a, when the women or the ladies are not protected, then there is an unwanted progeny. And because of the unwanted progeny, then there is a fall down in the society. The society is completely, the Vedic culture is lost actually. So that's why in many verses in Bhagavatam, it is recommended that one should protect brahmanas, old men, women, and little children. These 4 should always, and cows, these should always be given protection. So we have a devotee here. I'm new to the chat group and was blessed with the set of Srimad Bhagavatam and have started to read it. That's amazing, Indira Mataji. We are very happy that you have received your set of Bhagavatam during this time and you have started to read Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is a great start. Please keep reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Yesterday was a celebration of my Guru Maharaj's Vyas Puja at ISKCON Silicon Valley, and I was hearing some offerings today. And one of them was of Giriraj Maharaj. And Giriraj Maharaj was saying that to my Guru Maharaj that dear Vaisheshika Prabhu, you're my life and soul. And he was sharing that how he was saying like Guru Maharaj has such appreciation for Bhagavatam that for years he's been reading Srimad Bhagavatam every day for 41 pages, and every year he finishes the whole Bhagavatam, because if you read 41 pages every day, it takes you an hour or 5 or 10 minutes. So you finish the entire Bhagavatam and you start again. So imagine how much. And then Maharaj was saying that the reason Gurudev is able to quote such verses when he's speaking is just because he's so much absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that, there was another disciple who was sharing that this is what happens sometimes, when you take Bhagavatam seriously and you read and you make your life, then when you try to do something to please Srila Prabhupada, with that kind of enthusiasm, that energy, is palpable across everywhere, as Vrindavan Chand Prabhu was saying. So yeah, it is like that. This enthusiasm is contagious, and we have to have devotees in our society who have such enthusiasm. Like today, Karthik Chand Prabhu's class was so nice. If you get a chance, please hear it. It was so profound class. It was so nice. Hema Mataji is sharing with us that His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj repeatedly instructs mothers to play a leadership role for a child, at least for the first 5 years. She's a child's first leader and role model. There we go, Mataji, another endorsement for your question. So don't even for a moment feel that a role of mother is not, if you ask me, I can share my personal example. The role of mother is more important than a father. In my case, I'm not saying, but both are equally responsible for bringing up children. But sometimes I may not be that great in giving my time to the children, but I'm trying, pray for me that I get that balance right. So thanks for the answer. Just a general question. Any chance of rephrasing the text by ISKCON leaders, like removal of the word degradation associated with women or inclusion of mother in this text? Thank you. Very good point, Mataji, or Prabhu, I'm not sure. So very nice question being asked here. You see,
Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
What is your name, Mataji?
Surabhi, thank you.
Surabhi Mataji. So Surabhi Mataji, you see, as I was saying earlier, Prabhupada's words are, if something has been written, they cannot be wrong. But at the same time, we need devotees to be able to explain what has been written, you see. So from that perspective, we may read something, but the reason we do not accept it completely, sometimes I'm not giving this particular case, is because of our false ego. We think that I've been given a less importance. So like today, Karthik Chand Prabhu shared a beautiful example of Guru Kripa Swami Maharaj. He bought $100,000 check. This is at that time, and Prabhu was saying it would be $1 million today. And there were so many disciples of Prabhupada, and Guru Kripa Swami Maharaj was so happy that he, in front of everybody, he came and gave that check to Srila Prabhupada, and he was waiting for Prabhupada to, glorify him. Prabhupada took the check, looked at the check, and he kept it on the side. And after a while, he looked at Guru Kripa Maharaj and he said, why is your saffron dress so red? You're not supposed to wear a red dress like that. And later on, it was mentioned, as Prabhu was quoting, that actually Maharaj's dress wasn't that red. There were others in the room who had more red coming, showing in their color of saffron than Maharaj's. But because Maharaj was a little bit puffed up, or in the sense he had this thing, oh, I bought $100,000, Prabhupada wanted to bring him down, you see, make him feel that we are the instrument. We should never think to be the doer of these wonderful activities which we do on behalf of our spiritual masters, So the point is, Mataji, there is no need to be able, to be able to think that, okay, let's change the word. But what is important is to keep reading these books, Mataji. And the another thing I want to make very clear, for an aspiring devotee like yourself who's reading Prabhupada books, trying to understand them, then this does not actually relate to you. Because Prabhupada has made this very, very clear. There are times when you take up Krishna consciousness, you're as good as anybody else. Why do you think Prabhupada in the West has also, that's why he wanted to give them equal appreciation. He allowed the Matajis on the altar. He allowed ladies to be in a leadership position. So many things Prabhupada has empowered. And there were times when people think Matajis cannot do book distribution. And Srila Prabhupada made everybody made this point very clear. Of course, they can do book distribution. There just needs to be protected, and there needs to be that environment, and there is no problem. So that's the answer to, if anybody wants to add anything. Otherwise, we're going to conclude. It's 8:47.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so we have a message here from Mataji. Thank you for your answers. Yeah, Prabhu is sharing here that Bhagavatam Katha Vrindavan story, Lord Shiva visits Shri Krishna in Goloka, Yashoda versus Lord Shiva, Mother's love versus demigod. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So you can also click on the link and read that beautiful story. So dear devotees, thank you very much for dedicating your life to the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and trying to make some incremental progress. That's all we need to do. Like my spiritual master says, we just have to stay alive. If we are having difficulty, just reach out to our mentors, our well-wishers, and open our heart in front of them and seek for support and help. And devotees are always very, very kind to forgive you, to help you. And they want to see you progressing. You know, they are the real well-wisher actually. So thank you very much. And I hope to have your association soon. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.